Hi BookTube, I'm Roz and this is my channel A Journey Through Books, and today I'm going to be doing a reading wrap up because I finally got around to doing some reading. Yay! So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, and this book is kind of semi-autobiographical really. She has said that she disguised a lot of real life characters or people that she knew in real life, exaggerated them quite a lot and put them in the story. In fact, she was very concerned about this book not being published in America as it would be offensive. So much for that idea. Anyway, this story follows Esther, who is a very successful, very academic young lady, through her mental health decline until she ends up getting electric shock treatment for her clinical depression. I think actually it was much more than clinical depression, but yeah, so this story has beautiful language in it. Sylvia Plath is a poet, and her use of language makes this, well, captures the tone so beautifully. You cannot miss the feeling behind this. And to give you a couple of ideas, here is one passage that has been overdone so many times, well, quoted so many times, but in all honesty, it's that good. So she's, as I said, Esther was academically very strong. She got straight A's all the way throughout, and then she has to get to that point where she needs to make a choice about the future. And she says here, from the tip of every bar of, let's try that again. From the tip of every branch, like a fat purple fig, a wonderful future beckoned and winked. One fig was a husband and a happy home and children, and another fig was a famous poet, and another fig was a brilliant professor, and another fig was E.G., the amazing editor, and another fig was Europe and Africa and South America, and another fig was Constantine and Socrates and Attila, and a pack of other lovers with queer names and offbeat professions, and another fig was an Olympic lady crew champion, and beyond and above these figs were many more figs I couldn't quite make out. I saw myself sitting in the crotch of the fig tree, starving to death, just because I couldn't make up my mind which of the figs I would choose. I wanted each and every one of them, but choosing one meant losing all the rest. And as I sat there, unable to decide, the figs began to wrinkle and go black, and one by one, they plopped to the ground at my feet. I thought that was brilliant. The feeling behind making these choices. But this book is so much more than just an exploration into mental health. This book is also a look at gender roles, and one can't help but wonder if these expectations, this predetermined path basically for her life, is what got Esther, well, assisted with Esther's depression. And she says here, I try to imagine what it would be like if Constantine were my husband. It would mean getting up at 7 and cooking him eggs and bacon and toast and coffee, and dawdling about in my nightgown and curlers after he'd left for work to wash up the dirty plates and make the bed. And then when he came home after a lively, fascinating day, he'd expect a big dinner, and I'd spend the evening washing up even more dirty plates till I fell into bed utterly exhausted. This seemed a dreary and wasted life for a girl with 15 years of straight A's, but I knew that's what marriage was like, because cook and clean and wash was just what Buddy Willard's mother did from morning till night, and she was the wife of a university professor and had been a private school teacher herself. So I thought that was very telling with regards to what her life would have been like had she, well, there was no had she. Anyway, moving on. So the next book I want to talk about is lighter. So this one is a thriller mystery about, and this is Liane Moriarty's The Husband's Secret, and I quite enjoyed the reading experience of this. There were lots of things that I'd worked out. Okay, so basically a husband has a secret. You follow 3 women, 2 who are, I'd say, mid to late 30s, early 30s, yeah, probably early 30s. Can't remember those kind of details. They're moms, and then you follow Rachel. Well, you meet Rachel, and Rachel is a woman who's in her 70s. I think she's 70, and her daughter was murdered when she was 17, and Rachel's never got over this. And now you are with these three people who meet, not intentionally, and the story progresses. And obviously, yeah, you have to find out the husband's secret. And I wasn't surprised. I was surprised by things that happened in the end. But although she didn't do a bad job with this, I was less impressed than I was with Big Little Lies. And I think it's unfair that I'm making a comparison, but unfortunately, when you read something that really blows it out the water, you expect the same again from the same author, and this one didn't quite carry. I felt that looking back, I could see the formula with which she used to build this, that there were no surprises, that even the things that were a surprise, you could see that they were chosen like that to be of shock value. I'm putting it down, you've seen it. It was alright. It was not constructed anywhere near as well as Big Little Lies. I loved the fact with Big Little Lies how you had present day, and then it just hints, like a sentence or two, so you knew that something had happened. You didn't even know what. And throughout the book you'd get these little sentences at the beginning of chapters which would slowly but surely let you know that someone had died. Maybe more than one. Maybe it was murder. No one knows who did it or what, and that's why you're reading the past and you're catching up. And the way it was structured was done brilliantly because she kept the suspense going all the way, whereas this book didn't quite have that. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. So the next one I want to talk about is Why Mummy Swears, and this is by Gill Sims. I'm assuming it's Jill because anybody who names their child Gill, you know, after a fish's breathing apparatus, really is being mean and cruel to their children. So I'm assuming she's Jill and just needs to tell everybody how to spell her name everywhere she goes. Anyway, so this book is light and funny. I will definitely agree to that. But this book is a little bit more than this. Look, I'm not going to pretend that Why Mummy Swears is deep literature. This is light, it is fluffy, but it also covers relevant, important feminist themes, which is kind of becoming a bit of a thing with this book, well, this wrap-up. So, yeah, there are parts that are really funny. This book is following a mom who is successful in the IT world, but 13 years ago, 11 years ago, sorry, well, trying to remember the age of her oldest child, she gave up her job. The agreement was that she would go half-time or work half-day, etc. And she's getting to the point where, you know, it's been 11 years and she's not finding fulfillment. So she gets a job. Spoiler, sorry, but I'm pretty sure you would have figured out that, you know, the rest of the book needed to happen too. And you're following this woman as she's trying to, I can't even remember her name because it's written like a diary, so it's first person narrator. I think she was also an Esther or an Ethel or something like that. I think they mention her name like 4 times throughout this book. But yeah, I'm putting it down. You don't need to see it again. There we go. Why Mummy Swears. It's nice and catchy. The dog gets the dinner. The kids get their iPads tossed in the bin or their phones. And Mommy then is drinking at the bottom. So basically the idea. Anyway, so this story, you're following this woman, the narrator, as she applies for a job. It's her dream job, and how the struggle works between her and her husband is to, you know, her job also having the same level of importance, and her job not being the only one who looks after the children, worries about things like fetching them from school, feeding them, planning their terms, or planning what's happening over the holidays, etc. Because, you know, that's woman's work, and, you know, Dad can't take any involvement because his job is more important. And while I had moments in this book where I really, really had a good laugh. I know people have spoken about, oh, what do you do with a book when you want to cry in public? Well, I went to go buy takeaway, and I was sitting there trying my damnedest not to wet my pants while trying not to laugh. It was hilarious, this one spot there. But then that evening when I was reading in bed, I was getting so angry with this bloody husband that I think if he had walked into my bedroom door, well, through my bedroom door, I would have thrown something at him. And I could feel my heart pounding. I was so angry, sure. And I mean, because that I'm not going to spoil anything, but she really does a very good job of letting you really see what this woman is going through. I mean, everything happens to her from, you know, she gets the job, she's trying to run the family, feed the children, feed the husband, look after the dog, clean the house, and then she didn't think she'd get the job, so she ends up getting hooked onto the PTA, ends up being guilted into running the damned PTA, and now she's got to do all of this and she gets the job. Yeah, it kind of made Sylvia Plath's book make a bit of sense there. So I really enjoyed it. Well, I really responded to it. There were parts I didn't enjoy, parts there where I could have quite happily strangled her husband for her, buried the body. But I think it's highlighted, because I think what also really made it work for me is that throughout my working life, I have seen women in this position where the kid is sick and the school phones her and she goes home. It's not a matter of, let me call my husband, it's his turn. You know, it's always the woman who has to give it in for the kid, who has to stay at home, who has to arrange. And I've seen this every single year of my working life. I've watched moms have to deal with this while the men go off to work and they're doing their thing, you know. So yeah, anyway, moving on. So the last book I've read this week is The Glass Castle by Jeannette Walls, and this is actually autobiography, memoir. Jeannette Walls in the future, well, in real life, is apparently a journalist. I don't think her claim to fame has been her journalism. She's not a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist or something of the sorts, but it is her memoir that put her up there in the world where people knew of her. And I had heard of this book years ago, long before I started my booktube channel. It was back in the days when I was still stalking booktubers, and I remembered this book because of the opening sentence, and this is the opening sentence. I was sitting in a taxi, wondering if I had overdressed for the evening, when I looked out of the window and saw Mom rooting through a dumpster. And I thought, WTF, I need to read that. And this story follows Jeannette and her siblings, and her parents obviously, as they grew up. If Why Mommy Swears got me angry, this one got me angrier, because this one's even more real. I can at least go that narrator, whose name I cannot remember because it was mentioned maybe 4 times, that narrator is not real. Real women experience those things, but they don't have that obnoxious husband, you know? They have their own one that they love and chose. This was real, man. Oh, shit. Excuse the French, but there are no way, I don't know actually how I'm going to talk about this book without swearing, because I've never met a bunch of such effed up parents ever. Actually, maybe I've met, but that's real life, so, you know, well, this is also real life. But shit, man, this book starts with her at the age of 3 cooking hot dogs for herself on the gas stove, and her dress catches on fire. So she ends up in hospital getting skin grafts. At the age of 3, she was cooking on a gas stove. And she's not even there for the length of time that she's supposed to be, because Dad comes and nicks out the hospital. It is the most insane journey from place to place via the most irresponsible route going. Their parents didn't really give a toss about their schooling. Eventually, when they got to later on, well, proper towns, and they had to go to school, they did go to school, But they didn't care if they bathed, they didn't care if they ate, because, you know, Dad was an alcoholic, so let's drink all the money. And Mom was qualified to be a teacher. Shit, so much for my thoughts that people in my profession know what they're doing. But Mom was qualified to be a teacher, but no, she wanted to be an artist, and that was just messing with the dream. Oh God, when you sit and read books where the children are more responsible, where the kid in grade 7 is starting to put money aside so that he can leave home and join his sisters. Shit. I got so worked up reading this book. But while I was getting worked up reading this book, what I have to say though is that Jeannette does a really good job on carrying the duality of her feelings. Yes, she was very disappointed with her father, but yes, she loved him to bits and pieces, and that was done really well, because even as the reader, and you acknowledge that, you know, this guy has terrible paternal traits and Mom was no better, you still cannot help but know that she does love them. And that took some doing. That took some doing. But yeah, so this was an interesting read. I would recommend it if you're interested in a very odd view of, let's say, if it were Australia, it would be the outback. That's America. So all those weird places that nobody goes to in America, those little towns, it's a view of that. Reached by the most irresponsible method going, be it, let's see how fast we can get the car, over 90 miles per hour I might add, to the month-long journey. You know, let's just take them out of school. Anyway, so I'm currently reading Mr. Fox by Helen Oyeyemi. She's an author that I have heard about since before my YouTube channel, and in the beginning people were very impressed with her writing, particularly with Boy Snow Bird, and it was really hyped up on BookTube. And then as the hype started to die down, as it always does, more realistic reviews came forward where ideas and, you know, the journey that her book had taken, or perhaps her handling of, I think it was transgender topics, were disapproved of. And so I've heard some great things and I've heard some not great things, and it was on special, which is not necessarily the best reason in the world to buy a book, but it was my reason for buying this book, and actually at the moment I'm really enjoying it. So it's about writing. It's not about anything controversial as of yet, other than the fact that Mr. Fox is a serial killer, because as a writer he keeps bumping off his females. So we'll see where it goes. I'm really enjoying it. And that is me. And yes, I look forward to coming back with some more wrap-ups. I will be doing a wrap-up of Reading Women's Month. I've got about, 4 days to go. And I have crossed off some squares on that bingo board, so I'm quite proud of myself. And I've only duplicated on one, I think. But we will see what happens. I have 4 days left to read, so with fingers crossed, I'll get quite a lot more down. Anyway, that's me. Happy reading. Bye.